readers, it's Mrs. Briggs with another reading lesson. Today's video is just for one day, so let's go over our learning target for today. We are going to be reading a very short story called Frog Tricks Loud Rabbit. We are going to describe the characters with character traits, and I'm going to show an example of how to read fluently. So in today's story, I'm not going to stop at words that we can read together or anything like that. I'm just going to read through it fluently, and then afterwards we'll read these questions together. So let's go through these so you know what to listen for. Why is Frog really bothered by Rabbit? What makes Rabbit fall into the strawberry patch? And do you think it was fair that Frog tricked Rabbit? Afterwards, we will also be talking about character traits for both of the characters. We have Frog and we have Rabbit. Some questions to answer on Seesaw when you submit your work or turn in your work for today. One question is, are the characters kind and fair? And how would you describe the characters in this story? So what character traits can we use to describe Frog and Rabbit? So I'm going to pull up the story. It is not in your green book, so you'll just have to follow along with me. I'm going to show you this picture that goes along with the story Frog Tricks Loud Rabbit. Now this is a short story that has animals as the main characters, and the animals are talking in it. What kind of story is that? Yes, it is fiction, it's not real, but it's also a fable. A fable. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to read fluently. I'm going to be pausing at the punctuation marks when there's a comma, a period. I'm also going to be reading with expression. When there's quotation marks, I'm going to read like I am the character saying those things. Alright, so Frog Tricks Loud Rabbit. Once upon a time, there were a frog and a rabbit. Rabbit was very loud and could run very fast. Wherever he went, Rabbit shouted, "I can run the fastest! I can run the fastest!" Rabbit's bragging really bothered Frog. "No one wants to hear your yelling, Rabbit," Frog said grumpily. "But I can run the fastest," Rabbit said loudly. "There's no need to yell," said Frog. "I will race you down to the pond, and we will see if you really are the fastest," Frog added. Frog and Rabbit decided the race would be in 2 days. They would race in the tall swamp grass from the top of the hill down to the pond. Frog went to count how many hops it would take to get from the top of the hill to the pond. Then he went back to his house to plan a trick. All the while, Rabbit continued to shout, "I can run the fastest! I can run the fastest!" When the day of the race came, Frog and Rabbit were ready. Frog prepared to play his trick on Rabbit. He had asked all of his frog friends to hide in the tall swamp grass from the top of the hill to the pond. The race started. Rabbit ran very fast. He came around a corner and saw a frog jump from the grass in front of him. Then another and another. Rabbit became confused. He thought that each of Frog's friends was Frog. Rabbit ran faster and faster to catch up with Frog, but he was so confused that he did not realize he was running in circles. All that running in circles made him so dizzy that he fell right into a patch of ripe strawberries. When Rabbit looked up, dripping with strawberry juice, he saw Frog already at the finish line. Frog was hopping up and down and shouting loudly, "I am the fastest! I am the fastest!" Right. Now, as we were reading, or maybe even before I started reading, you probably made a connection and maybe thought of another story that's very similar to Frog Tricks Loud Rabbit. Let me bring us back to the questions. So our questions that we're going to talk about together, think about together are, why is Frog really bothered by Rabbit at the beginning of that story? Why is Frog really bothered by Rabbit? And I'm going to give you a second to answer these on your own or to think about them. And if you need more time, pause the video because I am going to go over some answers with you. So why is Frog really bothered by Rabbit? Well, Frog is bothered by Rabbit's yelling and bragging. Remember how Rabbit kept saying, I am the fastest, I am the fastest. Yeah, Frog didn't like that, so he's very bothered by it. The second question, what makes Rabbit fall into the strawberry patch? Again, you can pause the video here if you need more time to think, or if you want to go, I'll bring the story back up so you can look for that part where Rabbit falls into the strawberries. I'll give you a hint, it's in this paragraph here. And let's reread it together so we can find the answer together. Again, the question is, what makes Rabbit fall into the strawberry patch? So let's go right here. Rabbit ran faster and faster to catch up with Frog, but he was so confused that he did not realize he was running in circles. All that running in circles made him so dizzy that he fell right into a patch of ripe strawberries. So what made him fall? Well, he fell because he was so dizzy from running in circles. And our last question that we're going to think about together, do you think it was fair that Frog tricked Rabbit? What do you think? Do you think it was fair that Frog tricked Rabbit? And you might have a different answer than another friend who's thinking about this question. So again, this is just one that I want you to think about, maybe answer to yourself or someone that you might be working with right now. Do you think it was fair that Frog tricked Rabbit? All right, and then what I want you to do for your seesaw assignment, again, you can write this on paper or write it directly onto your seesaw assignment as a note or drawing. But this is what you are going to submit to your teacher. Are the characters kind and fair? So who are the characters again? Good, Frog and Rabbit. Are they kind and fair? If you don't think they're kind and fair, I want you to describe them using different words. So how would you describe, and I'll write it here, Frog. How would you describe Frog? And how would you describe Rabbit? Using character traits. If they're not kind and fair, how would you describe them? Again, our characters are Frog and Rabbit. You've done a lot of videos before this one, but just a reminder, if you want to reread it, you can always replay this video and you can pause it at any point. If you want to read it on your own, you can pause the video at the spot where the video or the story is on the screen and just read it yourself. Otherwise, you can just replay the whole video if you want. But be sure to submit your work to Seesaw. Again, you are writing down if you think the characters are kind and fair, and how would you describe the characters in the story? How would you describe Frog and Rabbit? All right, have fun.